Hey everybody, it's Andrew here. Thank you, Annie, for making that suggestion about harmony, or not harmony, phrasing. And what I think I'm going to do is I'll do a couple of short videos talking about, specific topics. I'll do one about classical phrasing in general, one about romantic phrasing or at least what might be a fundamental difference between the two. And we could look at some other things within classical music as well. So, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk specifically about classical phrasing as it appears in Ozzy's book, and we'll look at an example. So, let's just say that fundamentally the difference in late romantic phrasing and the difference between that and high classical phrasing, which I think Ozzy is basically, he's a kind of high classical composer and performer. This difference has to do with structural changes within the compositional process, as well as the development of the idea of the leitmotif and how that changed the relationship between melody and harmony. So if we look at classical movements, they have distinctive melodies. Obviously, they are melodic, whereas in some Baroque or quite a lot of Baroque compositions, they're not melody driven. Let's put it that way. But these melodies in classical music are beholden to particular parameters. So an evenly balanced mathematical phrasing structure is one of those. And another one is that it has always a very clear relationship to the underlying harmony. Classical music is really the beginning of the fully developed modern understanding of the relationships within the scale. So that's to say, the idea of a tonic and a dominant, or scale degrees. So when we talk about scale degrees, we're also speaking about harmonies which are defined by the relationship of the root of the harmony to the tonic, right? And that sort of conceptualization, that the way of analyzing a harmony based on the scale degree, that is something which comes out of the late 18th century. Yeah, it was all workshopped and developed in the Baroque and the early, and from what comes before. But actually, this sort of conception is adopted in the late 18th century. Excuse me. Now, most classical movements are made from rigid compositional forms, symmetrical binary, asymmetrical binary, ternary form, rondo form, for example, and then you have something like sonata allegro form, which is kind of an extension or development of asymmetrical binary, or what you could call it's a kind of ternary as well. But once the form has been developed, and I think this is something that we all have to learn in kind of university music theory, this form, for example, that once it was developed, it becomes a rigid form, essentially. That gets used. And in the case of Oz, he adheres to these compositional structures quite rigidly. So in that case, he's not somebody who's developing forms. He's just simply plugging and playing these compositions. So he takes a form, he writes a composition following the form. So let's look at a particular movement. So I'm going to split the screen here. Here we are. So we're looking at the third Grande Sonate, third movement, the Polonaise. So this is page 96 in the original. And the Grande Sonate are the most, obviously they're the most virtuosic, but they're also using the most extended version of the forms. So he's always, you can have a binary form, which is 4 bars in the A section and 4 bars in the B section. But you can also have a binary form, which is 32 bars in the A section and 32 in the B section. So his longest movements, still following the classical forms, are in the Grande Sonate. And so what we're looking at here is a rondo form. It's a polonaise, which is a particular kind of dance, so it takes a certain kind of rhythmic structure. But the phrasing or the format in itself is rigid. So it's going to be the first, 8 bars is the A section. And then basically, if you follow my cursor, this whole rest of the first page, and then up to here is the B section. You go back to the A, you play the A, and then you play the minor part, which is the C section, and then you go back again to the A, and then the piece is over. I'm just going to highlight here is you're going to notice that this is really 4 bars plus 4 bars with a pickup. First bar is kind of a pickup for the bassoon. He very clearly composes how this works. He plays the melody is performed twice, and it cadences on the tonic at the end in the second phrase, whereas it cadences on the dominant. What you'll notice also is in this phrase is that the first phrase really ends on the second 16th note, and then the rest is a chromatic drive to the pickup again and to continue on into the second phrase. That's going to be very clear. Then the B section is in C major, and this whole section cadences ends here, and then he basically, the next couple of bars is going to be a return to A minor so that you can play the A section again without a very jarring transition from a C major cadence to then playing into the next bar being in A minor. You're going to hear that there are some very clear-cut melodic sequences that are clearly defined. You're going to see that in the B section, the first 4 bars, make up one phrase. Then you have 2 plus 2, again 2 plus 2, and then basically what comes after is a drive to the C major cadence. So let's just play that. Let's play the A and the B. Phrase 2. Now B section. Two plus 2 now. We're just driving to the cadence. Now return to A minor. What I generally encourage people to think when, especially if they're coming from a historical performance background, and you see this taught, especially so, I hate to say it, in the States, in historical performing, but you do see it here in Europe with people who are just beginning, is that there's always this huge emphasis taken on bringing out the micro dynamics and micro phrasing. And I would say look at the compositional structure, and you'll find that it makes a certain bar or 2 bar phrase makes more sense in the context of 8 or 16 bars. So play it with the mind to the broader context. These are very vague statements actually that I'm making, but when we look at something else like maybe Elgar, for example, it's a different kind of composition, and it has to be approached in a different way. it would, if you played an Elgar composition like you would play an OZ composition, it just wouldn't make that much sense, or it wouldn't be as interesting for sure. Anyway, thanks very much for watching, and I'll continue on with this for now. So thanks very much, Annie, for the suggestion, and happy practicing. Bye bye.